Indian television personality interview. And I'm literally privileged to have Anand and my old film school pal Amritpal Singh Bindra, and more popularly known across India as the creators and torchbearers of Bandish Bandits. A big warm welcome, Anand.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Such a lovely introduction.
A big warm welcome to my dear friend Amritpal.
Thanks, Rahul. So good to see you and be with you here. Thank you.
So much, such a pleasure. And I just wanted to say a few words before we start the interview. That as you are a viewer of content across the world, what attracts you as an individual and attracts at least me as an individual is, would I want to be invested in the world I've been taken into? So when you look at Godfather or Goodfellas or even The Irishman, movies like this who have come out, you want to be part of that world and you feel invested in that world. This is exactly what I felt about Bandish Bandits. Wow. It's the world I want to live in. It's a life I want to see how it is. It's the pain I want to suffer. It's the joy I want to feel. And we have a number of people talking about this show across our podcast. And many, many congratulations, first of all, to both of you for creating Bandish Bandits.
Thank you. Thank you.
Superb. So we'll start with our first question. And it's from my friend Anshuman Jain from Delhi. He says, the show may be promoted as a musical love story, but has all the elements from romance, suspense, thrill to drama. How did the idea of Bandish Bandits originate? Any inspiration from other shows or movie? And who came up with the title, Bandish Bandits? Quite a tongue twister.
So let me answer that in two parts, but I'll answer the second part first. The name Bandish Bandits came up definitely from Anand. And I want to tell you that all titles that come out from whatever we do come out from Anand, because Anand is a title expert. We give all the titling work is always done by Anand, so he's really good with titles. So that's to answer the simple part of the question. As far as the idea, Rahul and Anshuman, thank you for asking that question. I narrate this anecdote because it really is the seed of where it all started from. So we have a common friend called Namit Das, who's actually Anand's friend, and I met him through him, whose father actually is a very illustrious classical musical singer. His name is Chandan Das, and he's been a musician for a really, really long time. And I think in passing, he once told his son this line, which was then, retold to Anand and then retold to me. And the line was that, कि मैं एक राग पे 19 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ और अब मुझे लग रहा है कि थोड़ा थोड़ा मुझे समझ में आ रहा है. Now that line for us was just, it really shook us to the core, because in this world of instant gratification, the internet age, overnight successes, the race to kind of get views and likes, there was an artist who spent 19 years of their life not only on a music form, on one rag, and kind of just tried to work on it, improve it, understand it, get to the depths of it. So we were very intrigued by this thought process. मतलब हम लोग एक piece of content पे 2-3 साल काम करते हैं और बोलते हैं यार बस करो यार, अभी हो जाए, बस कर दो, चला जाए, let's move on to the next. हम में इतनी patience नहीं रहती. So I think it was just that psyche that got us very interested. And then, of course, one thing led to another. We got more entrenched into that world. We obviously created a love story around it where we juxtaposed it with a different character from a very today's internet age world. So I think that led, but really it was just this thought that got us started.
Superb. Sounds like a very, very interesting story. I think this little origination can be a short film in itself.
Yeah.
Because see, the Indian classical musicians are not like worshipped like Mick Jagger, or they're not worshipped as they should be. And I was telling Anand before some time back, and I was telling Anand that Spick Meke proponents are talking about this movie. So my friend Anshuman is actually deeply involved in Spick Meke. So it's the Indian classical music lovers fraternity. Most of these questions. That's why,
So Rahul, what we find, even like Bandish Bandits or Amrit and me is also about questioning art, because we are both artists, at least if we could call ourselves that. and the constant struggle to understand what is art all about. Is art about the discipline of practicing that art, and you do it for the sake of the art, or do you do it for the sake of an audience? And more, the world is asking you to do it for the sake of your audiences as soon as you possibly can. Don't worry about the finishing. Don't worry about, if you look at the social media, the more organic things look, even with flaws, those are the videos that do well. And every artist of any discipline wants that instant gratification right away. Is there room for years of discipline, years of struggle, and then creating something that is pure? Is there a book like that? And it's not just Indian classical music, but also some part writing traditions, some part theater traditions. Also in cinemas, there are certain schools that want you to be that train you to be a different way. But when you come back to the big bad world, you are looking at a very different ball game, which is of instant gratification. So every artist goes through this. I'm sure, Rahul, you yourself would have faced that question at some stage. Who am I doing it for? Am I doing it for the audience or for the gratification I seek myself? And that excited us beyond measure. And we took that story of what Namit narrated to us. We took some of the interactions we had with artists around us, and we thought, what better way to tell a story of young India, of two part of young India, the small town of young India and urban India, than through music, because that's a language everybody speaks across the world. If we are talking to 190 countries, that's the only language everybody would understand. So hence music.
So actually, so well put, because one of my main observations was this show is very aspirational. So these guys are like, okay, they're grounded wherever they are, and they're trying to dream big. And then you have Shreya's character, who's like totally westernized, and yet she wants to make a name in her own country's traditions in some way. And I think it's a confluence of two Indias, as you rightly said. Like one is the small town India, the other is the big town India, but both have similar pursuit in this story. And I totally agree with you.
So yeah, Rahul, also what we faced was, Amrit and I both were born in Bombay. We both, I grew up only in Bombay. Amrit, of course, had the fortune of going to different parts of the world to gain more understanding of the world. What happens is, I think the big town India is more connected to the New Yorks and the Melbournes and the Londons of the world than to the Jodhpurs of the world.
Yes.
And the Jodhpur, Indore, Jabalpur, when a kid from there comes to Bombay, they have a far more the cultural shock for them is of a certain kind. But when a Bombay kid goes to Jodhpur, finds a far greater cultural shock than they would when they go to New York. And we felt there is a great opportunity here to kind of merge the two worlds, which are in the same country, and see how they interact without judging either. There is at no point are we judging the urban centers of India or the suburban centers of India. And that's where the sparks really flew for Radhe and Tamanna's characters.
Yes. Our next question is about the casting of the show. The casting is most interesting. How was it managing veterans like Nasir Atul Kulkarni, Rajesh Tailang on one hand, and dealing with the rank newcomers on the other side? And there's a specific question for you, Anand.
Right.
Anand, you have a long association with Nasir as a co-actor. Right. How was it to direct him for the first time?
I'll answer the second part first.
Okay.
So with Nasir sir, I think because I have spent about 10 years with him directing me, with us acting as co-actors, I have a certain amount of shorthand with him as far as performance is concerned. And I know I've had long conversations with him in the last 10 years. I've done workshops with him to understand how his mind ticks when he approaches a performance. And I've actually imbibed quite a lot of that into my direction, into my performances as well. So when I direct actors, I use a lot of things that he has taught me. When the tables turned, I had to just dive into the same pool and talk the same language with him. All I had to do, and Amrit is very much privy to that, all we had to do is that we had to just remind him where this particular scene or this particular sequence was in the show, and the rest he just did it. He knew if this was something, and in films and in series, most times you're shooting non-linear, which means that you might be shooting episode 2 and episode 7 on the same day. All you had to do is just remind him, as storytellers, that's our job, to where this is in the grand scheme of things. And he had already made copious notes to understand where is his physical ailment, where is his mental and emotional status, what is his dynamic with the co-character, and how he needs to approach this scene different from what he's done before, or what he's going to do in the third episode that he hasn't shot yet any scenes of. So that progression he had completely chalked out, and you'll never see the process, but I, as a student, know that he's done that entire homework and come to set.
Well, he was talking on Film Companion and on YouTube, and he was saying that I love working with Anand, and and this is one of those, because Anupama Chopra ji was asking him a question, that what kind of roles you want to do in the future. He says, I want to hang out with people I like, and Anand is one of them. So I think
that's lovely. It's very sweet of him to say.
And
no, he showered absolute love to the two of us. We met Amrit during the just before the time when we approached him with Bandish Bandits, and he's been a fan of Amrit because we were at a film do, and it was somebody's house that we were celebrating the success of one of our films, and at that time IPL was on. And Amrit and I are both absolutely crazy fans of cricket. But Amrit is a fanatic for IPL, especially for KKR matches. And Amrit's real focus was, where is the TV in this house so that I can go and watch KKR? And Nasir sir is a big introvert. He doesn't necessarily like to talk to too many people or party too much. So he also gravitated towards that screen. And Amrit and Nasir sir actually know each other as cricket fans even before as creators.
Yeah, we bonded really well, and then
Nasir sir loves him from the word.
So, what about the casting process? Part of the other part of the question. How did you manage?
Amit, you want to take that?
So I think Rahul, I think there were a few parameters that we had kind of set up for ourselves, which, for example, we were very convinced right from the outset, once we had written the story and kind of knew where we wanted to take it, that we want the boy and the girl, which is Radhe's character and Tamanna's character, to be ranked newcomers. We were happy with, and when I mean ranked newcomers, not in terms of in actuality newcomers and someone who had done no work, but just someone who didn't have baggage on them. That people who weren't well established faces on the internet or in the movie space or on television, because we just felt that we wanted two characters who could really be relatable to young people across the country and have no preconceived notions about them. Now, when it came to the casting of, say, like a Nasir sir, it was very evident that the kind of role that Panditji's role was, it would be impossible to have someone who didn't have a screen image, or who didn't have presence, or who didn't bring the baggage of authority with them. And we just wanted someone who could walk into the frame and command respect and authority, which, of course, Nasir sir gave us in a very instant manner. So he became a very obvious choice to do something like that. So I think the first thing about casting is the approach to casting was very much out of the characters and very much out of the writing and the story, rather than saying कि नहीं हमको इस role के लिए तो इनके पास ही जाना है या उस role के लिए इनको ही लेना है. There was none of that. It was a pretty organic process. And both of these characters, Radhe and Tamanna, came through several rounds of auditioning. So, they really went through the grind to get this role. And literally, there's this huge trend now on digital shows also to cast people who have huge social media following and who have a lot of Instagram followers, because, it feels like the audience is already excited about this. Both these people were sub 10,000 followers when the show released. So really, there was not only that they were newcomers and they had no baggage, they also did not have a social media presence. So really, all that credit goes to them, because they really lived and breathed that role and really impressed us all with their auditions. And now to kind of just sum up the last part of the question, which was the balancing act of working with the established actors versus the newcomers. I think, to be honest, it was actually really smooth, yeah, Rahul. It was very much like everyone was so kind and gracious, and of course the newcomers, you expect that from, and you feel like they are, obviously for them it was a huge opportunity, a massive show that was going to be shown over 200 countries. But even Nasir sir, Atul sir, Rajesh Telang sir, who are obviously senior, more established, Shiba, just phenomenal actors. They never made us feel or made any of their co-actors feel that हमें सब पता है, हम बहुत senior हैं, हमें सब आता है. Not even once. With and individually, so like when we would, like, I as a writer on the show would sit with Nasir sir and talk about a scene, or sit with Atul sir and talk about a scene, I was not being given treatment that, "Arey no, yeah, you don't know anything, just trust us, this is how we'll do it." In fact, they were constantly asking questions. They were constantly asking us why we did something or why we didn't. Same applies to Anand as well, that when Anand used to direct them, it was never a question of, that, no, listen, I'm not going to do it this way, I'm going to do it that way. So to really be honest, it almost felt like, and the beauty about great actors is they're so curious, they're so open to learning, and they're almost like kids on the set. So in some ways, I know this sounds funny, in our minds, we were working with all newcomers. Because we were not working with anyone else, because everyone was seeming much more excited about the show than even we were many times. So I would say that actually there wasn't much of a difference while treating both the sets of actors, because everyone was very, very kind and gracious on the shoot.
Wow. And now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Khania from Pratibha Singh Baghel and Shivam Mahadevan. Tell us something about the choice of music and experience of filming them. And the other part of the question is the songs set in ragas, essentially. Right. Who amongst the two of you has more of a ear for music? What kind of music preferences the two of you have? Quite detailed, but still.
It's a long-winded question. So,
but this is, people are writing with passion. So
that's very sweet. That's really very, very sweet. Trust me, we're very glad to be answering all these questions. Okay, I guess both of us can take a jab at this one. But so I think, Rahul, as far as the music choice is concerned, I'll keep it brief, that Shankar Ehsaan Loy, to be honest, were very, very much the obvious choice for a show like this. And I think that's pretty evident to people, because when we wrote the show, we were planning the show, there were three different parts of music, or three worlds of music that we wanted to create. One was the Shastriya Sangeet, the world that Radhe and Panditji would come from. And then there was this very pop, contemporary kind of Taylor Swift kind like music, which is the world that Tamanna inhabits. Then the third kind of music was when these two worlds collided, and there was fusion music that was created. So really, when we came down to thinking about who could do justice, and for some reason, I think Anand and me both always felt that we wanted a singular voice as far as the music is concerned on this project. And we didn't want to do bits and pieces from various music composers. We didn't want to curate the music. We wanted someone to be very much part of the storytelling journey with us. And that's exactly what Shankar Ehsaan Loy then brought to the table. Because more than just the 10 original songs they've done, or the BGM that they've done, or all the musical IDs, whether it was the Riyaz sessions between Panditji and Radhe, whether it was the tracking of the song between Radhe and Tamanna, I think the greatest involvement, or the greatest kind of, gift that they gave us is they also became such an integral part of the storytelling. And helped us in actually a lot of the scenes, had made us meet a lot of people who had been through experiences like this. So they really became collaborators at a much deeper level for us than just, music directors of a show that we were doing. So I think that hopefully answers the fact that, yes, there were this. And yes, their knowledge and Shankar's understanding of music in general, his understanding of story in general, is just amazing. And we got a lot to learn from it. And in fact, that's why this song from Ragas and the idea of really being authentic to the spaces of music that we were trying to achieve has a lot to do with him. So I think that kind of answers most of that part of the question. Who has an eye for musical ear, amongst anyone else? I'm a big fan of the 90s Bollywood song and dance. So for me, this world and idea of classical music was just as alien as possible. I never liked Indian classical music. I didn't even hear much of it. And as I told you, we only got bought into this world because of this idea or because of this one experience. And we really started, I started learning this world in a way that I had never seen before. And of course, now I can say that there's obviously a newfound respect for this kind of music and the world of these people, just because of having gone through this journey of Bandish Bandits. So I think it was, but I think music is something that, Anand and me both are really fond of. So I think we would like to believe that, we have a sense of what, and more importantly, Rahul, in this case, the music was so inherent to the storytelling. It wasn't a case of us saying कि यार इस फिल्म में 2 आइटम नंबर होने चाहिए, 4 गाने हिट होने चाहिए, एक लव सॉन्ग होना चाहिए, एक सैड सॉन्ग होना चाहिए, 2 डांस नंबर होने चाहिए. It wasn't that kind of a project or a show, right? So I think a lot of this music just came organically from the story. So I think a large extent of that. Having said that, the aspiring musician amongst us is now going to be the next person who will answer the rest of this question. Anand is the aspiring singer himself. So he has imbibed Bandish Bandits even more than a lot of the audiences, because he has now actually started doing singing classes. So I will hand over to now Anand.
So Rahul, I always wanted to know music beyond what I just hear. And of course, my exposure to music has been Hindi film music first, and then I started listening to classical music specifically because I heard it live, and the kind of impact it had on me when I heard it live, whether it was Zakir Sahab, whether it was listening to Pandit Ravi Shankar or Bhimsen Joshi, and I was lucky enough to hear them live, and the kind of feeling it gave me was so contemporary. But when you listen to audio tracks, they always feel that they don't belong to you. That I'm not supposed to feel that this is something that will give me a lot of energy. And classical music was treated with a lot of respect, but a certain amount of distance. And in Bandish Bandits, we really wanted to bridge that distance. So why to answer the last part of her question, that there were certain rags that were chosen which were time or emotion specific. So it does start with Bhairav, which is a early morning rag. So Jago Mohan Pyare is in Bhairav. Of course, Viraha as a bhav comes at the opportune time, and Shringar is developed through the season, because the love story also develops through the season. So there was some bits that were specific, but we also kept it quite popular in that sense that we chose rags like Malhar, we chose forms like Thumri that we are already familiar with. In Bollywood, you have heard so much. I mean, the entire Bollywood Shringar Ras, which is all your romantic songs, are actually coming from Thumri. So there's somewhere or the other, if you listen to all the great musicians and music directors, they've all taken from there. And Malhar is something that we've heard. I mean, there are songs in Lagan and so on, where we have and monsoon being such an important part of most of India, it is something that you're already familiar with. So in season 1, a lot of things that were done with great amount of understanding that we have to bring you into this world. So we are not going to take you into the nooks and crannies yet. Maybe there will be a time for that. But right now we wanted to set the base where people who had no idea of what classical music was, or people who had no initiation to it, almost had a certain amount of reservation of going to that direction. We wanted you to bring something that you were familiar with. Also, we did not treat it, not a lot of Vilambit has been done, which is the slow, pacey, classical tracks can go on for 45 minutes. So we went to the Dhrut right away, to the fast paced right away, so that it was something that the world right now, the contemporary world, is more familiar with. And credit to Shankar Ehsaan Loy, to create a Bandish in 3.5, 4 minutes is very, very tough. And they did that with Lapparai and Garaj Garaj, which are short Bandish pieces, which is very, very difficult to compose, and credit to them to pull it off.
Superb. That's quite an education for me, I would say, Amrit. I'm also learning from Anand what he's telling us. And I think this passion shows out, because every work which comes out of a new world setting, as you guys have introduced us to,
Right.
It's very important for us to know these facts while we are watching the show.